Good morning and welcome to the judges, teachers, guests, and participants of FRSIS 2025. Now, I'd like to introduce our judges today. The Chief Judge is Technology Specialist Dr. Siti Azrina binti Mukbin, Assistant Professor, School of Computing, Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation, Bukit Jalil. The second judge is Ms. Kaisara Abdullah from Sekolah Menengah Sains, Kuching. The third judge is Mr. Muhammad Umarul Farouk bin Muhammad Fuad from Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Aisyah Rohani. And I am Izzakwan bin Karo Effendi from Guamusang Science School, while the timekeepers Nur Adlina Husna binti Faizal and Alia Hanani binti Hairun Nizam are from Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuala Selangor. Now, allow me to read the rules. Each team should consist of presenters and a technical assistant. The presentation must focus on the sub-team assigned to the team. The duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. The bell will be rung once at the 9th minute and twice at the 10th minute. A question and answer session will be conducted after each presentation. Now, let's hear from Sekolah Menengah Sains Pasir Puteh to present.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's imagine a future where tourism doesn't just entertain, but it empowers, sustain, and transform communities. That's the vision behind our project. Designing a sustainable future, a comparative study of ecotourism practices in Melawifornia and Taman Bali in Kelantan, conducted by
Young Researcher Circle of Pasir Puteh Science School.
So I am Hasha and this is Farina. But before we go on any further, Assalamualaikum and a very good day. I bid to the honorable judges and members on the floor. So I have a quick question. Have you guys ever heard of a place called Melawifornia? This is definitely not a typo, not California, Melawifornia. For your information, Melawifornia is Kelantan's own secret eco-paradise with way less traffic and way more coconut trees.
Which is why we believe that Kelantan actually has a great potential to be just as successful as other ecotourism destinations in other countries.
So moving to problem statement, ladies and gentlemen, despite ecotourism being vastly promoted as sustainable practices to enhance Malaysia's economy, for your information, sustaining this business was never an easy job. This is simply because starting is easy, but sustaining a different story. Usually, ecotourism businesses face challenges in balancing environmental protection, economic growth, and community involvement, which leads to our research objective, which is first to explore how management and operational practices are implemented at two ecotourism sites in Kelantan. Second, to investigate the ways in which environmental sustainability and community engagement are integrated into ecotourism in Kelantan. And lastly, to propose a suitable ecotourism model based on best practices.
Now, for the research questions, first, what are the similarities and differences in the operational and management practices in between the two ecotourism destinations? Second, how does Melawifornia and Aman Bali Beach Resort integrate environmental sustainability and community engagement into their ecotourism activities? And third, what are the components needed in order to integrate an ideal sustainable ecotourism model for rural destinations in Kelantan? Now, fellow audience, as you can see, this chart represents the bibliometric analysis that we have done. So, based on the chart, research regarding ecotourism in Malaysia has always existed over the past years. However, an increase started during the year 2011 until the year 2023, proving it being a research trend. We had used the app Publish or Perish to create the chart and do our bibliometric analysis, and we had set Scopus and Google Scholar as our database, and we had used VOS Viewer to create a map. Now, while we were doing the bibliometric analysis, we had narrowed down our research to 5 main keywords, which were ecotourism, Malaysia, environment, cleanliness, and beach. And from those keywords, we had identified a few co-occurring words, which was the words that are most frequently mentioned, which is first, tourism development, second, community involvement, third, community participation, stakeholders, and last but not least, sustainable management. As for the challenges, the co-occurring words were education, resources, community participation, and community involvement. Last but not least, for the society, the co-occurring words were resources and economic growth. However, ladies and gentlemen, while we were doing our bibliometric analysis, when we had exchanged our keywords, Malaysia, and we replaced it with Kelantan, we identified a major research gap in which there has not been much research or articles published about ecotourism specifically in Kelantan, which leads to the reason why we are researching on this topic. Now, based on this chart, it shows the amount of the increase of tourism rates in Kelantan, leading to the importance of our case study. Now, we have chose 2 specific destinations for our comparative case study, which are 2 coastal areas located in Bachok, Kelantan, namely Melawifornia and Aman Bali Beach Resort. The reason why we chose these 2 destinations is because we wanted to compare between an old and established business and a newcomer in the industry. But even if Melawifornia is new, it has shown and proven it enriches the same engagement level such as Aman Bali Beach Resort. So proving that it's the same level. We had opted for the qualitative way in conducting research in order to gain saturated data by doing semi-structured interview and ethnographic observations.
So for population and sampling, there are over 71 ecotourism spots across Kelantan, and we have 3 main stakeholders, which is local community members, tourism business operators, and local government officials. Here's some of our ethnographic observation that we have done at Melawifornia and Aman Bali Beach Resort. We present our key findings from interviews using thematic analysis. We have compared both insight from Melawifornia and Aman Bali Beach Resort under 3 main themes, which is environmental sustainability effort, local economic growth, and community participation. Same goes to the interviews with locals and visitors.
Now, here is a triangulated insights from our findings. What findings? the findings that we have gained from the interviews conducted. So, before this, during our bibliometric analysis, we only identified 3 important aspects, which was local participation, environmental protection, and eco-awareness. However, after we conducted the interview, we have gained a new data in which we learned the importance of government and council support in sustaining an ecotourism business. So now, we have 4 important aspects, such as environmental protection. In Site A, if you guys remember from the comparative case study, in Site A, they highly rely on private action because they lack institutional support, which is the reason why it's hard for them to maintain and sustain their destination. For Site B, they have the institutional support. However, they themselves lack awareness on where are they supposed to benefit it from. So in eco-awareness, Site A demonstrates intentional eco-awareness building. However, Site B has functional practices but lacks in education or consciousness in raising efforts. For local participation, Site A fosters empowerment through skill building. However, Site B promotes event-based level engagement, and from this we can conclude that Site A is more changeable. And last but not least, for government and council support, as I mentioned earlier, Site A lacks in their government and council support, which is why they highly rely on private action. And Site B, they do have the government and council support and council, however, mainly for their logistics and not for the advocacy. And this answers our research question number 1 and 2. Last but not least, to answer our third research question, we have proposed a model for effective and efficient ecotourism business, which consists of 3 important aspects that you should fulfill in order to sustain your ecotourism business, which is local participation, eco-aware operators, and also government and council. So from the study that we have conducted, we have analyzed that Melawifornia, it has local participation and has eco-aware operator. However, it lacks in government and council support. In Aman, Bali, they have local participation and government and council support, but they lack in terms of eco-aware operator. So now, regardless of bottom down or top up, both of them are facing a slow-paced business due to the fact of them lacking in a few aspects, which is why we created this model in order to pave their way in helping them, ensuring the stability of their business. As you can see, the hybrid ecotourism model is a triangle shape, the most stable geometrical shape.
So, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion from this research, we have learned that ecotourism businesses can thrive but at different rate of success depending on support or initiative given. Not just that, local participation is stronger with empowerment like in Melawifornia compared to Aman Bali Beach Resort. Moreover, the proposed ecotourism model can be an effective tool to ensure success of tourism business. Last but not least, bottom-up versus top-down approach in ecotourism.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, here are a few limitations that we have faced as students conducting research. First of all, although we have gained our saturated data, the outcomes may not be transferable for other settings due to the difference in geographic, cultural, and management. Second, we have faced challenges due to the limited access to internal documents due to the lack of authority. And third, time constraint for ethnographic analysis, we took only 4 to 5 hours per visit, although we wanted to do more.
So for more research opportunities, here's our next step forward. We have further research on models effectiveness, second, youth and ecotourism engagement, and last but not least, policy gap analysis for sustainable ecotourism.
Now, fellow audience, mind you that while we were conducting our research, we had consulted with a few professionals and we had asked them for reviews and feedbacks, which is proof that our research is not just is paved and is done with guidance and guided by professionals. So, last but not least, here are all the references that we have used. Our gratitude wholeheartedly goes to the owners of Melawifornia, the managers of the Aman Bali, the professionals that we have consulted, and the locals. With that, we end our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now I would like to invite participants to ask questions.
What inspired you to do research at Melawifornia and Aman Bali Resort?
So, the main reason why we decided to conduct our research and conduct our comparative case study on these two destinations is because we highly believe that they have great potential to act as great ecotourism businesses. And from that, we have created the model that can help them sustain their ecotourism business. With that, it can also help um, enhance the economic growth in Kelantan.
I would like to invite the judges to ask questions.
How many objectives you have?
Three.
3. Research questions.
3.
Problem statement. Do you show in your slides?
Yes.
Do you have the anchor paper? I mean, where is it from? Where is the issue that you cited from? I mean, is it from journal, conference paper, the resources? The problem statement, yeah. There must be a root or sources, yeah, where it come from. Your problem statement.
As you can see, here are a few articles listed.
Okay.
So we found our problem statement from these articles.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sekolah Menengah Sains Pasir Puteh, for presenting.
Test.
Now I would like to invite Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Jaafar to present.
A storm rolled in, and the game began. In Komanji, there are no extra lives, no extra button. Just one shot to build smarter, stronger, greener. But the question is, we will play it safe or we play it to transform. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a pleasant morning. I bid to the precise timekeeper, Mr. Speaker, esteemed panel of educators, and astute member of this August Hall. We are from Tuanku Jaafar Science School. We'll be presenting about post-Dorian recovery in Bahamas through empowering local community, through smart living and ecotourism. Members, this is a table of the content which we have set as our framing for today's presentation. Now, we're moving on to Sustainable Development Goal. As you can see here, we are focusing on SDG 11, which is Sustainable Cities and Communities. We're primarily focusing on 3 aspects, which is 11.4, protect world cultural and natural heritage, 11.5, reduce the adverse effects of natural disasters, and 11.8, support least developed countries in sustainable and resilient buildings. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to a deeper topic, we need to first understand what ecotourism means. Understand, members, that ecotourism means traveling to natural places in a way that protects the environment, supports local people, and helps us learn more about nature. Before diving even deeper into ecotourism, let's take a quick look at this global impact through statistics. So, In 2019, ecotourism has generated a total annual impact of $33.1 million, supporting 442 jobs and contributing $1.6 million in state and local taxes. The direct impact was the highest, with 370 jobs and $24.7 million in spending. Meanwhile, indirect and induced effect added further value through business and household activities. However, it is not all positive. We'll have to bite the bullet here. The pie chart shows some negative impact of ecotourism, including pollution, disruption of habitat, and profit does not reach local community. Hence, while we are here today, in a more encouraging note, the line graph shows a rise in job vacancies related industries, especially in accommodation and food services, indicating growth and opportunity. Overall, ecotourism plays a major economic role, but we must balance its benefits with responsible practices to reduce the harm to the environment and local people, which is our main stakeholders today. But Humaira, what is the most exemplary nation that shows immense growth in industries of ecotourism?
We're glad you asked, Haris. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the Bahamas. Well, in 2019, you must be picturing perfect paradise, white sand beaches, colorful culture, and eco adventures. And you wouldn't be wrong. The Bahamas was exactly that. However, if you look here, the Bahamas isn't just paradise, it's devastation, uprooted trees, as well as entire homes flattened, or in some cases, entirely flipped upside down, like you see here. Now I know what you're thinking. What happened? Members of the floor, let us walk you through Hurricane Dorian. Hurricane Dorian was a devastating storm that hit the Bahamas in September 2019. In just a few days, thousands of lives were changed forever. Dorian was a Category 5 storm with sustained winds up to 185 miles per hour, with storm surges up to 23 feet. Dorian stalled over the nation's islands for 2 days, causing catastrophic flooding, leveling entire communities, as well as resulting up to $3.4 billion in damages. Unfortunately, over 70 people did not survive this event, and a few hundred still missing till this very day. Now, as we look ahead, a few interlinked threats loom over the Bahamas' future, including ecosystem degradation, pollution, climate change, and rising sea levels. However, members of the floor, we will put our focus into the latter because we believe that the other mentioned challenges are more of a factors or causation of climate change and rising sea levels in the very first place. Members, we tell you that it is a more urgent matter to address for SIDS, small island developing states such as Bahamas. Now, with all that being said, the first disruptions comes from sea level rise. Understand, members, that a 1 meter sea level rise could inundate up to 31% of the country's land area. Secondly, is the major threats of intensifying hurricanes. Understand, members, that warmer ocean temperatures contribute to stronger storms. Hurricane Dorian alone highlights the nation's vulnerability towards extreme weather events. And thirdly is the dangers of coastal erosion. Realize, members, that stronger storms and sea level rise could actually accelerate beach erosion, threatening infrastructure, tourism, as well as cultural heritage sites. Now, with all that being considered, what are the possible actions and solutions we can consider to effectively mitigate or reduce the impacts of these climatic issues, Ari?
Well, you know what they say, Myra, even 100 more problems can be solved with the right solution. Ladies and gentlemen, in front of you, we're presenting a few creative and possible solutions that will tackle the issues Myra mentioned earlier. First up, water farms. These use atmospheric water generators, which literally pull water from the air. By planting them in humid areas like coastal or tropical regions, we can maximize efficiency, as these machines can produce up to 100 liters of water per day. It is a sustainable way to ensure people that they always have access to fresh water, no matter where they live, and without relying on bottled supplies. Secondly, the EWS app, an early warning system. Now, these government-backed apps send geo-targeted alerts to people to keep them informed about any incoming natural disasters like hurricanes. It also features offline maps so people can navigate throughout the island even without connectivity, and a check and save button so people can stay in contact with emergency services quickly. Now, ladies and gentlemen, do understand that technology doesn't move in isolation. That's where community and culture comes in. Organizations like the Bahamas Natural Trust help by protecting the environment as well as involving locals.
locals. They can help train residents as eco-tour guides, as well as supporting both nature and the economy. Friends of the Environment, or FOE, can also play a vital role, as they can help run educational programs where local youth can care and protect the environment, as well as boosting knowledge about nature well-being. Now, with all that being said, let's not forget about the importance of cultural heritage, ladies and gentlemen. Do understand, by offering spaces where elders and artists can share their music, cuisines, and stories, we can keep traditions alive. Annual festivals led by local youth can help by boosting their pride, creativity, and leadership in the next generation. Ladies and gentlemen, last but certainly not least, we present to you the Olympics. Now, the Olympics is a playful sport event where categories like freestyle floaters, staff sprinters, and picks and paddles are featured. It's safe, fun, and meaningful, as the Olympics promotes animal welfare, preserve natural habitat, and gets the whole community involved. Don't worry, because influencers like FGT and the Royalty family can help by boost participation and spread global awareness, as the recent videos on YouTube has over 60 million views. So yes, from water and safety to culture and conservation, we believe that our solutions are not only possible, they're powerful. So we use a lot of quantitative and quantitative research for our methodology. Do you mind explaining some of them, Ipin?
Okay, thank you, Arisa. So I will begin my section in survey. So my respondent was answered by people locally and international from around the world. It is ranged from age 18 to 55. So it all starts with awareness. That is the first step in any meaningful responses. But in this case, in section 2, we found that nearly half of the respondents were not aware of the major hurricanes that have impacted the small island nations. Even fewer had heard of the Hurricane Dorian despite its devastating impact back in 2019. However, in section 3, when asked whether island nations are vulnerable to climate change and natural disasters, most said yes. This contrast reveals something important. People understand the risk, but the specific stories remain distant. From there, the survey looks on tourism's role in recovery. More than 83% believe that local communities could bounce back, but not just through tourism's dollar, by rebuilding connections between people and place. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the floor, that is a huge sign, but it also comes with a quiet reminder. It has to be guided by fairness, care, and long-term view. Otherwise, resilience will become a buzzword, not a reality. Now we will move on to section 5. Here shows something encouraging. People are started to align with the heart of ecotourism. But how? By being kind to the environment, honoring their culture, and learning along the way. It hints at a shift from being just tourists to being thoughtful travelers. However, there is still a small group that values things like theme parks and commercial development. And lastly, in question 12, here the message is loud and clear. More than 94% believe that local communities should play a big role in recovery and sustainability projects. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not just a number. This is a huge desire for inclusion and changes.
Now, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded our research. However, we also would like to state out our other references for our qualitative and quantitative research, which is we use references from government-officiated websites such as the National Hurricane Center and Central Pacific Hurricane Center to ensure reliable source. Now, what we have done today is tell you that the definitions of and fractions of SDG, the definition of ecotourism, a brief and short case study about the Bahamas and Hurricane Dorian back in 2019, and of course, we provided you solutions and actions that we can consider for climate issues like climate change and rising sea levels. And we've also concluded a few of our research methodology, which is references and a conducted survey. And with that, we have come to the end of our presentation. Thank you, and we would like to open any questions to our members of the call.
Now I would like to invite participants to ask questions.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Abid from Sasa, and Thank you for such an amazing presentation, in my opinion. Okay, so my question is, out of all the ecotourism places that you could have choose, why choose the Bahamas?
Thank you for that question. I would like to answer by stating the reason why we chose Bahamas is because it is one of the most endangered or the most prone to get the worst impacts of climate change. We tell you that the Bahamas always face double environmental penetration. What is double environmental penetration? We tell you that the global countries such as China and US actually emit the most global emission, emit the most greenhouse gases. However, who is the victim of all of this? Not US, not China, but small island developing states such as the Bahamas. That's why we say that Bahamas is the place to do our research because first of the urgency of ecotourism to boost their economic to fund for not only the welfare of the environment but also fund for the technologies for adaptation and resilience towards climate change. And I hope that answers your question.
So I have one interesting question. In the end of your presentation, you mentioned about the Olympics, which involves the Bahamas peaks. So I want to ask, how can you ensure that these peaks won't fall into exploitation?
Okay, thank you so much for your question. To answer how do we avoid these pigs falling into exploitation is quite simple actually. By placing animal standards or guidelines like World Animal Protection and Certified Humane, we can avoid and prevent these pigs being used as tools and novelty. Also, we can encourage education before interacting with these pigs because as we mentioned earlier, locals are involved in this activity. So educating the tourists with about the pigs before interacting can actually prevent and encourage educational tourists to, as they can never exploit the pigs and never use them as tools.
I would like to add that these Olympics will also be under the Bahamas National Trust. And why we say this? Because this government has almost have a 99.9% rate in sustaining and protecting and preserving the environment, just like the habitat of Abaco National Park and such in Bahamas. So we believe that Bahamas National Trust will play a big responsibility and role and will ensure that the exploitation will not happen on our end. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you to Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Jaafar for your presentation. The judges. I would like to invite the judges for questions.
Okay, thank you, STJ. Okay, I would like to ask one question. How can the best practices in Bahamas, a small island nation, can be reflected in Malaysia?
Okay. All right. Thank you for that question, panel. We've done a research about how what we want to implement in Bahamas can also be implemented in Malaysia. Understand that just like Bahamas, Malaysia also have hot and tropical regions because Malaysia is a ecological place or climate. That means that for the water system to be implemented in Malaysia, we can also increase the water supply for Malaysia because we have humid areas just like Perlis and Kuala Pilah, our state our state institution. And other than that, please realize, members, that between Bahamas and Malaysia, these two countries actually offer the same kind of ecotourism in which they explore the biodiversity and the uniqueness of the biodiversity in Malaysia. Like Bahamas, we have the flamingos, the Inagua flamingos, and the Abaco national parrot. And in Malaysia, we have, for instance, the Pakma flower. We have the endangered orangutan species. So with that, we would like to encourage ecotourism, just like the one implemented in Bahamas, to also be implemented in Malaysia to increase more and more tourists and revenue in the long term. I hope that answers your questions, panels.
Now, thank you for Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Jaafar for your presentation.
Thank you and good day.
Starting in 3, 2, 1. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "The earth provides enough for every man's need, but not every man's greed."
Today, tourism stands at a crossroad, serving either genuine sustainability or unchecked profits. That is why we chose the title Tourism's Masquerade, Grand or Green, to question whether modern tourism truly helps the planet or just wears the mask of sustainability.
But before further elaboration, in the name of Allah the Most Gracious, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day I bid to the honorable panel of judges, beloved teachers, fellow participants, as well as members of the floor. We are proud to represent SASA, Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Munawir, in this year's symposium. I am your presenter Haris, moderator Abid, technical assistant Afif, and repertoire Amza. Before we get into the problems of ecotourism and its solutions, how do we actually solve said problems? We must first go into the definition of ecotourism itself. We tell you, panel, that ecotourism we define as the responsible travel to natural areas that listen closely, one, conserve the environment, two, protects the well-being of local people, and three, involves interpretation and education. We tell you, panel, that ecotourism simply exists for two things. First is to benefit, first is to protect the environment, and second is to protect local people. But we also tell you, panel, that when the goals of ecotourism are not followed, it can do the exact opposite, which is to harm nature and to exploit local communities.
Now, panel, we have found three serious issues that are stopping ecotourism from truly supporting sustainability. The first problem is greenwashing. Greenwashing refers to the deceptive practice of falsely marketing products, services, or policies as environmental friendly. Moving on, we have over-tourism in fragile ecosystems, where it occurs when the number of tourists exceed the carrying capacity of a certain destination, especially in ecologically or culturally sensitive areas. Last but not least, we have the commodification of culture, where specifically it refers to the process of turning cultural expressions into commodities that can be marketed, consumed, and sold, especially to tourists. Now, panel, in a nutshell, these three problems, greenwashing, over-tourism, and commodification of culture, all degrade the ecosystem and exploit local communities. But what's even worse is that not many people know or even care about these problems. That is why we chose these three problems as the topic for our research.
Talking about research panel, let's go on to research background. First and foremost, we tell you we did our research based on real case studies, expert articles, and global reports. We focus on not only the three problems we told you just now, but also how they all affect SDG 11, which focuses on making safe, sustainable, and inclusive communities.
Now, panel, our goals for this research are simple. The first, to identify the underlying causes and factors to the stated problems in ecotourism. Second, to investigate how these issues impede progress towards cities achieving economic self-dependence. And last, most importantly, to provide you with evidence-based solutions that can further align ecotourism with urban sustainability goals.
Moving on to research methodology panel, we tell you that we did a qualitative research, which basically means we focused on real-life examples instead of just plain old numbers. We analyzed actual trusted sources from academic journals, government reports, and sustainability assessments. We also tell you panel that topical research is also conducted in order to make analysis way more systematic, helping to assess sustainability problems one by one. These are some examples of scholarly articles from established websites that I believe even you panel can trust. Examples are from United Nations, Sustainable Travel International, the International Ecotourism Society, or also known as TIES, ecotourism.org, and much, much more. These are very trusted sources, panel, I believe even you can trust.
Now, panel, let me tell you one cold hard fact. Research shows that approximately 6 out of 10 tourists are unaware or misled by greenwash activities. We need you to understand that that is up to 840 million people around the globe every year believing that they are helping the planet when in reality they are doing the exact opposite.
Enough with facts panel, maybe you're even bored after this. Let's go into causes. First and foremost panel, we tell you the first problem, greenwashing, happens because of three reasons. First, when ecotourism is done with a lack of regulation and standards, weak certification systems, as well as profit-driven motives, we tell you that greenwashing becomes a very real and eminent problem in status quo.
Now, panel, we tell you that over-tourism happens due to a few things such as poor visitor management, aggressive marketing of quote-unquote untouched destinations, as well as during the seasonal surges and peak demand, such as during the school holidays.
Based on our research as well, on to the third problem, commodification of culture, what is its causes? We tell you that first, when ecotourism is done under too much economic pressure, external control of cultural narratives, as well as the increase in demand for quote-unquote authentic experiences, we tell you the commodification of culture is really real and really impactful. Enough with causes, we told you definition, causes, what are the impacts on society, implications, effects, and impacts. First and foremost panel, we tell you first, greenwashing is really, really bad because it misleads tourists, it also misleads decision makers. What does it actually do? It diverts attention and resources from real sustainability practices, it erodes public trust as well as undermines transparency. Let me give you a note panel that this goes against directly SDG target 11.3, which focuses on inclusive and sustainable urbanization, as well as going against SDG target 11.B, which focuses on urban resilience strategies.
Now, panel, let me remind you, over-tourism happens when too many tourists go to a place that can't handle them. The result? It degrades delicate ecosystems, it strains local infrastructure, and it displaces local communities. I tell you that by threatening both cultural sites and the environment, over-tourism directly violates target 11.4, which promotes safeguarding cultural and natural heritage, as well as violating SDG target 11.6, which talks about reducing the environmental impact of cities.
Going on to the third problem, the commodification of culture, what are its impacts? We tell you first and foremost, when culture is turned into mere entertainment for tourists, it loses all significant value. We tell you panel that the commodification of culture disempowers our local communities, makes unequal economic benefits, as well as the loss of cultural identity. We tell you the commodification of culture goes directly against SDG target 11.4, which talks about safeguarding cultural and natural heritage, as well as going against SDG target 11.A, which talks about the positive economic links between urban, peri-urban, and rural areas.
Now, panel, with all these problems and its impacts it has on our world, I'm sure you're worried. But fear not, as with all the research we have done, we have definitely found effective solutions that do work. First and foremost, in order to fight against greenwashing, tourism businesses should adopt verified sustainability certifications like those from TSDC and STP. These certifications ensure that these companies are actually doing what they claim to be doing, as well as upholding public trust. We tell you that when these certifications from recognized bodies become obligatory, the problem of greenwashing is inherently solved.
On to second problem, over-tourism in fragile ecosystems. We tell you over-tourism solution is to implement visitor management strategies. Examples are timed entries, visitor caps, reservation systems, as well as the use of crowd detection technology. We tell you when you implement these four strategies, you can inherently avoid overwhelming popular destinations, exactly just as how, for example, Machu Picchu has employed timed entry systems in order to manage visitor flow much more better in their own country.
Our panel, we tell you that in order to counter commodification of culture, we tell you that cultural tourism should be community-led. What does that mean exactly? It means that the people themselves should be the one to decide how their culture is shared, and this ensures they benefit fairly from it. A great example of this is the Taoi people in Vietnam, who have revitalized their cultural practices in a modern and respectful way according to the status quo.
Now, these are three solutions that help go against all three individual problems. Let me give you, panel, one solution that can go against all three problems, which we tell you that is community engagement. Of course, change doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with awareness. That's why we suggest things like school excursions, student excursions, eco conventions, as well as public campaigns, all with the help of media, communities, as well as education. We tell you, panel, everyone, especially the youth just like us, can help make ecotourism much more better in the future. Now, in conclusion, what can you get from the past 8 to 9 minutes we have been talking so far? Well, to put in a nutshell, panel, ecotourism can be a very, very powerful tool, but only when it's done right. It must be done honest, community-led, and truly sustainable. In order to achieve SDG 11, we must stop falling for green labels, protect fragile places, as well as honor local cultures. When managed the right way, ecotourism can truly help protect nature and support local people.
With all that, thank you so much for lending us your ears. Let us travel wisely, let us build better cities, and most importantly, let us protect the planet together.
Sasar namamu teratas, takkan sasar hilang tahtanya.
That's all from us.
Thank you.
I would like to invite participants to ask questions.
Okay, my name is Muhammad Fakra Arifin from Tuanku Jaafar Science School. Okay, thank you, Sasa, for the interesting presentation. But I would like to ask some questions. So we know that ecotourism is usually described as being about nature and the environment. So why does your presentation, why is culture is such a big focus on your presentation? And how exactly does ecotourism lead to the commodification of culture?
Okay, I just want small clarifications. I want to make sure that what you're asking is that how does ecotourism directly relate to the commodification of culture? Like, how does that happen? Like, you know, ecotourism is supposed to be about going to places, going to parks, seeing something green, paying tourism agencies money, and then you feeling better about yourself because you think you're helping the environment with your money. But when we tell you the commodification of culture happens, it's not green. It's about people. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. To clarify, panel, the commodification of culture happens with ecotourism by simply, let's look at the definition first. We tell you first and foremost, can you please go to slide definition of ecotourism? While ecotourism is supposed to be about green, about going to parks, paying money, and then making you help the environment with your money while also doing ecotourism, we tell you it's not only about green, it's also about people, about culture, about cultural heritage. We tell you through the definition of ecotourism that we have already given you. Ecotourism is defined as responsible travel to natural areas that listen closely, 1, conserve the environment, 2, sustains the well-being of local people, and 3, involves interpretation and education. We tell you, Fakrul, we tell you that exactly point 2 and point 3 is very important to sustain the well-being of local people, and interpretation and education, very, very important for ecotourism agencies to follow. Because if they do not follow, they are not regulated, they don't have good standards, thus the commodification of culture happens. Because when tourists go to rural or indigenous areas, they want to see quote unquote authentic experiences. What does this look like? This probably looks like some natural, this probably looks like traditional dances, rituals, clothing, food, whatsoever. When tourists come there, they expect those kind of experiences. But when we tell you ecotourism agencies nowadays use the commodification of culture, they use those rituals, they use those authentic quote unquote experiences in order for them to get money because tourists want to see that. That's exactly what they want. They want to follow their market. That's why they use rural or indigenous people to actually use their rituals, use their authentic experiences as quote unquote performances for tourists. That's when the commodification of culture happens. That's when exploitation happens. That's exactly what we don't want. That's why we provide those solutions. I think that's it.
Now I would like to invite judges to ask questions.
I'm sorry, one of the...
Subhanallah. Assalamualaikum. I'm from Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku and I have a question. Based on your presentation, why did you choose a qualitative approach instead of quantitative data or survey? Thank you.
So the reason why we chose qualitative approach instead of data or survey panel, maybe you might be questioning that as well. We tell you that we did that because the problems that we're presenting in our presentation today are very, very big problems. They are underlying causes that have real world impacts. They are super huge. Greenwashing, over-tourism in fragile ecosystems, as well as the commodification of culture are very, very big problems that if I ask a random tourist in, for example, to Aman Bay or whatsoever, if I ask a random tourist there, I give them a survey, whatever they are doing, they are definitely not doing greenwashing, they are not doing over-tourism, they are not doing the commodification of culture. The people that are doing that are tourism agencies, ecotourism agencies, big companies, maybe even governments, those kind of things. There are big authorities that do these kind of problems that we tell you we cannot provide to such tourists. That is why we choose to do qualitative methods. Afif, can you please go to slide qualitative methods? That's a bit too far. Okay. We told you we already took a multi-case study approach. Trusted sources, academic journals, government reports, sustainability assessments. Topical research also conducted to make analysis much more better. On to next slide. We already told you the sources that we studied are very, very trusted. United Nations, Sustainable Travel International, TIES, ecotourism.org. We tell you we don't want, of course, it's not that we don't want you to question our research, but it's the fact that because our research is because the problems that we are facing in our research are so big, have such big real world impacts, we tell you that giving surveys to such stories probably isn't going to be a good idea for our research methodology. That is why we chose to do qualitative research.
Thank you to Sekolah Menengah Sains. I would like to invite the judges to ask questions.
Your objective number 2, to investigate blah, 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 blah there, right? How you do the investigation?
Can you go back?
How you measure that you already completed research? Yeah, that one. How you do the investigation?
Investigate how these issues impede progress towards cities achieving economic self-independence. How do we investigate? What is the process? How do I achieve this?
Researching.
I think still researching such topics. Like before, I already told you, you should have been already.
What is the approach? Is it by survey? Is it case study? How you
Case,
achieve research
multi-case
objective
study.
number 2?
Real case studies, expert articles, global reports.
Using global reports.
Global reports, exactly. My apologies for if I had any bad language or whatsoever. I'm just a bit confused and whatsoever. My apologies.
Thank you to Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Munawir for presenting.
Test mic 1 2 3. Test mic 1 2 3. Test.
Testing 1 2 3.
Okay, test 1 2 3 test.
Now I would like to invite Sekolah Menengah Sains Sultan Haji Ahmad Shah to present.
Attract millions of tourists globally. But are we leaving behind? The increased rate of tourists has caused this produce getting out of control. Good afternoon, Abi, to honorable judges, respected teachers, and fellow participants. It is truly an honor to be here with all of you at this esteemed international symposium. My name is Nur Aina Shasha binti Sharul Hisham.
And my name is Aina Karina binti Zairudi.
And we are the representative from Sekolah Menengah Sains Sultan Haji Ahmad Shah.
We are standing here to present on the subject that speaks directly to some of the most pressing challenges and opportunities of our time. Trash to treasure, village to venture, smart living through ecotourism. We live in an era of innovation, smart living, driven by technologies such as automation, artificial intelligence, AI, and the Internet of Things, IoT, has revolutionized the way we live. It enhances comfort, improves energy efficiency, and supports sustainability. So, our focus for smart living practices is smart waste management. Meanwhile, ecotourism is a responsible travel to natural areas that protect the environment, support local communities, and promotes education.
It's not just about sightseeing, it's about making a positive impact. Tourists learn about nature, respect local culture, and help conserve what makes these places special. By combining them both, we create a powerful synergy that not only help the environment, but boosts economies and empowers communities. In short, we are killing two birds with one stone by combining sustainability and improving quality of life.
The central issue we are tackling here is uncontrolled waste disposal, which lies at the heart of multiple interconnected challenges in the community. Firstly, we are missing out in valuable economic opportunities because the waste is not serving its full potential. It just piles up instead of creating jobs or income. For example, plastic bottle and packaging could be collected and repurposed into eco-bricks or handicraft, providing income for local artisans and reduce environmental impact. At the same time, it is causing serious environmental pollution. The trash harms nature and takes away the beauty of the surrounding. And to make things worse, there's not enough community involvement. Without the people on board, the waste problem keeps repeating itself.
The true objective of our research, which are the first one is to observe how the local communities manage their waste. Second, it is to explore the effective waste management practices towards its impact on tourism and community empowerment. And lastly, is to recommend smart waste initiatives tailored to local communities. For the research methodology, we chose qualitative approach to finish our task. And the data collection is done by doing interviews, first-hand observation, and library research. We have conducted interviews with local residents and tourists, and the answers are recorded by video, voice recording, and note-taking. And all of the interviews were filmed with consent, and this is our video evidence for the interviews we conducted. The interviews were conducted at Pantai Kempadang, Teluk Cempedak, Kampung Cempaka, and Kuantan City.
Kita ni kena buat terpulang kepada sebab every morning uncle will try to collect all the plastic along the beach.
So, what did we find? These villagers didn't sit back. They turned the tide by turning waste into opportunities. They activated creative waste management initiatives like recycling waste into souvenir, using recycled materials in construction, installing plastic to cash reverse vending machine, and community-led and clean-up upcycling projects. They also embrace the 5 Rs, which are refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot as a way of life. For example, Heart Treasure, which is based in Kuching, Sarawak, actively promoting eco-friendly souvenirs like bracelet and keychain. You can visit Heart Treasure on its Facebook to support our local business. The outcomes incredible. For environmental perspective, we successfully created a cleaner village and a reduce of plastic waste. Meanwhile, on economic front, we have achieved economic gains from souvenir sales and vending machine revenue.
By practicing innovative waste management initiative, it contributes positively on ecotourism. It will increase tourist interest in eco-innovation, expand tourism value through unique waste transformation, and expand local businesses and craft to support local communities. By embracing modern waste management innovation, it also helped to empower our local communities. This was proven by the increasing participation and ownership in local enterprise. And not to forget, it also spread environmental awareness among locals. After we made our observation, there are several recommendations we would like to make, and these suggestions are highly recommended as it offers mutual benefits to all stakeholders. The recommendations are to replicate model in other village, and not only that, we also suggest the communities to focus on improving the quality, functionality, and eco-friendliness of local product to better align with the sustainable tourism values. And lastly, schools, community centers, and tourism hub should incorporate hands-on learning experiences related to waste management, renewable energy, and biodiversity conservation.
However, we have faced multiple obstacles to finish our research, and one of them being time constraint. Time constraint, full of school activities, have prevented us to conducting many outside interviews to gather data. Not only that, limited sample size and non-representative sample can affect the relevance of result. Lastly, lack expertise in specialized area like statistics, programming, or certain theoretical frameworks.
In conclusion, integration of smart living and ecotourism drive both sustainability and socio-economic growth. By introducing innovative waste practices, communities are inspired to protect the environment and become more actively in shaping a sustainable future. Through the implementation of innovative waste practices, we plant the seed for change, not just for us, but for our generations to come.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our team from Sekolah Menengah Sains Sultan Haji Ahmad Shah, we thank you for listening, for supporting youth innovation, and for believing in a cleaner, smarter future. Malaysia's landscape are breathtaking, but it's up to us to keep them that way. By managing waste smartly, we don't just protect the view, we protect the value.
And that's all from us.
Thank you. Same size, hidup berjasa.
I would like to ask participants to ask questions.
All right, Subhanallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. All right, my question is, how does smart living contribute to how does smart living contribute to the smart my bad. How does smart living contribute to the empowerment of local communities ecotourism area?
Okay, that's a wonderful question from you, and thank you. Okay, first of all, smart living contributes to the empowerment of local communities by integrating in technology and sustainable practices into our daily life, both improving our quality of life and environmental protection. In ecotourism areas, smart living can be involved by using renewable energy, smart waste management systems, and of course, smart tools for marketing local products. Because of that, this will empower the locals to manage their resources effectively and efficiently, increasing their income through eco-friendly businesses. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Hi. Thank you for the interesting presentation. My question is, do you think that the suggestions that you gave are applicable to all tourism spots? Thank you.
Thank you for asking this. Okay. This. This. Thank you for asking the questions. Oh. Okay. Well, I think it's absolutely yes. This is because all tourism spots need to be improved. According to the improvement of technology. And waste management is something that we do every day, especially in this tourism spot. And moreover, the suggestion that we give are doable, and it also can be practiced by everyone, between the community or the government or NGOs, and everybody surrounding us can be practiced by everyone. Hope that answering your question.
Okay, since you guys mentioned about the sample size being small affecting the relevance of findings, how valid do you think your findings were?
It is valid around 70% since we also did the research based on the journal and news, and this is valid through using it.
Now I would like to invite judges to ask questions. Thank you to Sekolah Menengah Sains Sultan Haji Ahmad Shah for presenting.
Testing. Okay. Testing. Test. Test.
Now I would like to
next
invite
to Kaya.
SMA IDU Global Bandung Indonesia to present.
Test. Test.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Such a pleasant day today, and thank you for being here. Let's begin our presentation with this simple image. As you can see, this is a diversity world that filled with culture and nature. But, but as time goes by, modern life changed everything. People rely more on technologies and start to disregard others. And these things creates problem. People start thinking for themselves, cultures start to disappear, and the worse, our connection is become weaker. And with this crisis, do you ever think, can local wisdom be the key to saving what modernization has destroyed? And with that, allow us to present our research. Identifying patterns of sustainable cultural practice in CIREUNDEU and GIRIMEKAR. And let me introduce our team. We're having Sir Isan as our supervisor. I'm Ashifa as your moderator. This is Hasbi as our operator. And we're having Keisha and Kiana as our presenter today. And we're from Edu Global School, Indonesia. Without any further ado, please welcome our first speaker, Keisha.
Thank you, Shiva. Okay, so let's get started to our discussion about the research topic. Do you ever know what is a tourism village? Well, tourism village is basically known as desa wisata in Indonesian. So a tourism village is a village that is focused on preserving nature and culture at the same time. They attract tourists, but with their cultural and then natural, also traditional assets. And now we are going to introduce you to our main sites. First site is CIREUNDEU Village. CIREUNDEU Village has a food culture where they eat cassava as their staple food, and it is located at the city of Cimahi, West Java, Indonesia. And we have the traditional vicar, Abah Widi, as the head of the village. And the second site is GIRIMEKAR Village. They have a monthly event entitled Nyawang Bulan, and the location is at Bandung, West Java, Indonesia, and the traditional vicar is Mr. Eddie. Why do we choose these two villages? Well, it's basically because they too have the same focus where they have a strong intention in preserving culture and then environment. Also, how do they protect their environmental, also economic growth? It is related to SDGs 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. Now, heading to our problem statement, we have 4. The first one is, how do the villages communities interpret the relationship between nature and culture? The second one is, how do they contribute to the local empowerment for the sustainability of economic growth? And third, what is the differences and similarities of the both villages? And the last one is, what potential innovative solution that could be offered and implemented in other ecotourism projects? Now, this is our objectives. Our objectives is we want to explain that ecotourism, especially tourism village, could be a role model for other ecotourism because they integrate every aspect and they also have a way to preserve culture and nature with their own way. And we want to offer a new solution for other ecotourism out there. And for research methods, we have a qualitative approach with ethnographic methods that includes 3 main points. The first one is participant observation, where we as the researcher involves in their daily lives. And second is interview, where we do an in-depth analysis by interviewing and Q&A sessions with many informants of the local communities, also head of the village or stakeholders. And third is by document analysis or literature review from credible journals such as Google Scholars, Mendeley, historical notes, and government articles. Also, we take this data for 3 months, but this is the main timeline you can see from March until May 2025. This is our framework. we have two inputs. The first one is the custom patterns of CIREUNDEU, and the second one is the custom pattern of GIRIMEKAR village. We combine that two patterns to create an innovative solutions or sustainable practices. We want to identify their sustaining culture and environment. Finally, we have the output of the potential future in ecotourism projects, and we make it the better one. Next, for analysis and results will be presented by Kirana.
Thank you, Kaya. Moving on, in our results, we have decided to divide it into three themes. First is the cultural view of nature. GIRIMEKAR and CIREUNDEU hold sacred bonds with the local nature through local wisdom that is passed down from generation to generation. In GIRIMEKAR, the belief of Rahmatan lil Alamin, an Islamic wisdom of that every creation in the universe deserves mercy, including plants and animals, motivates them to sustain the environment and through reusable and natural packaging and regular communal cleanings. In CIREUNDEU, the belief of Tritangtu di Buana motivates them to divide the forests of the local area to prevent overexploitation of the woodlands there. Next is the upholding of customs, which is very important to the communities. They are similar in how they uphold it through the creation of folk festivals, Suro and CIREUNDEU and Nyawa Bulan and GIRIMEKAR. They are folk festivals that are designed to be open to the public, where people can come in, eat and drink traditional food and beverages, witness traditional performances, and bask in the atmosphere of familiarity and festivity. They are also uphold customs by promoting traditional values and reinventing traditional old practices for modern use. And lastly, but most importantly, the third theme that we realized from our investigation is the adaptive nature of the community. First, in both areas hold protocols and rules which must be followed by anyone and any foreigner who wishes to enter the area. Despite this, they are still welcoming of tourism and outsiders. Both in GIRIMEKAR, the creation of Nyawa Bulan as a folk festival began to promote sustainability and traditional values, and in CIREUNDEU, they created tourism packages to educate people on CIREUNDEU. Moving on, back to Kaya.
All right, thank you, Kirana. Now let's talk about our research output, which is the potential focuses to solutions for under ecotourism projects. The first one is we want to set that ecotourism projects out there could set a focus based on nature, culture, and environmental well-being. So by integrating that aspect, we believe that ecotourism project could be more healthy and will be more effective in this modern era. Especially CIREUNDEU and GIRIMEKAR village also survive from the modernizations and globalizations. That's why we also need to integrate and make a teamwork to build a solidarity of ecotourism in our surrounding area. And last one is to prepare the local communities to interact with outsiders by setting a strict boundaries. Next, what can we do as a tourist? Well, simply we can visit ecotourism, which is a tourism village, and we can learn from it because they provide an education of culture. Also, we made a social campaign to aware publics where we do it in Instagram platform, and it follows by more than 100%, also read by more than thousands person. So by this, we hope that our campaign could be beneficial for people and people could realize that tourism village is very important.
In conclusion, CIREUNDEU and GIRIMEKAR serves as examples of how tourism villages are diamonds in the rough that can lead to more sustainable ecotourism in Indonesia. The two are similar in how protective and eager they are in promoting sustainability and promoting cultural values, even though they differ in what exactly the cultural values are and how they preserve it. It is also important to know that the local communities hold the traditional values and traditional practices in reverence. They are not hostile towards the contemporary elements of life. They welcome they welcome tourism and modernization with open arms. And even though modernization can be harmful and destructive to traditional values, they can also live in harmony along with them as long as ecotourism is applied with care and passion.
Okay, thank you for listening our presentation, and we do open the Q&A session, and we do love to answer your question.
I would like to invite participants to ask questions.
Hello, that was a wonderful presentation. I'm
you.
from SM Sains Kuching Utara, and my question is, how do you ensure that reinventing traditional practices for modern use does not lead to the loss of their original meaning?
Thank you for your question. The example that we use in our presentation is done in GIRIMEKAR, where an old tradition of creating a specific thing is exchanged when a woman is pregnant. Through that, they reuse that tradition for the commerce and the money of the folk festival. In that way, they still maintain the tradition of within the community of um, exchanging exchanging gifts during when someone is welcoming a new child into the family. However, it can be reused once more for the promotion of the culture through folk festivals. Thank you.
Now, I would like to invite judges to ask questions.
Why you choose these two villages?
Okay, thank you for your questions, and let me answer your questions. Why do we choose these two villages? Because the two villages have the same goals as I mentioned before, and they have different ways to preserve. And we believe that by combining these two practices, it will contain or creating an innovative solutions that is very strong that could be applicable to other ecotourism projects. For example, like the plastic use, they replace it to something that is reusable and it's eco-friendly. So I think when we combine that to our modern life, it will create something big and something positive for our daily life.
Furthermore, both of these villages are easily accessible in the area. They are both connected to the wider city area, and people can go there whenever they want. That means that it is easier for them to sustain and promote the cultures and the sustainable practices that they wish to, and shows that they can live in harmony with modernization.
Thank you.
Thank you for SMA in the Global Bandung, Indonesia for presenting.
Thank you.
Tes. Tes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Now, I would like to invite College Islam Sultan Alam Shah to the stage.
Apa?
Mr. Bus again? Or maybe the train's playing hide and seek? Whether you're a daily commuter or a confused tourist, delays can ruin a good day. What if your journey flowed as freely as the wind? What if missing a ride became a thing of the past? With smarter planning and real-time tracking, it's time to change the way we move. With that, we present to you our topic for today, Let the Winds Guide Your Commute, Never Miss Another Ride. Before we jump in, Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone.
Thank you to the speech moderator, honorable judges, wise timekeepers, and our friendly rapporteur. A very special thank you to our aspiring supervising teacher, Madam Mohana Kala. Now, allow me to introduce our hardworking team members, Muhammad Afiq as a technical assistant, Yasmin as a rapporteur, I'm Kyra as a dedicated moderator.
And I'm Zaid as a beloved presenter, presenting College
College
Islam
Islam
Sultan
Sultan
Alam
Alam
Shah.
Shah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, have you ever waited for a delayed public transport thinking, oh, I could have hiked a jungle by now? Well, you know, the usual frustration. For tourists heading to places such as Fraser Hill or Cameron Highlands, these delays disrupt their plans and also push them towards less sustainable travels. Now, let's address the current issue circulating in the era, shall we? First, public transportation in Malaysia often faces delays and unreliable schedules. This affects both commuters and ecotourism. The delays can also discourage the use of public transport altogether. Ultimately, this leads to more private vehicle use and greater environmental impact. Now, we move on to explain our problem statement. Ladies and gentlemen, please take a look at these news articles. As you can see, delays and unreliable schedulings aren't just isolated incidents. They are recurring issues that impact thousands daily. For local communities, these delays meant fewer visitors and reduced income from tourism. Can you imagine, just because a few inaccuracies about the train arrival time could affect your whole revenue for the day? What about ecotourism?
Slowly, people will begin to lose trust in the efficiency of public transport, further increasing the use of private vehicles, leading to greater carbon emissions, which we all know is draining to our environment. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the floor, it is apparent that unreliable public transport delays are a mild crisis for ecotourism and must be resolved instantly. The problem is, how?
Thus, our research questions are: how do delays and post-scheduling influence commuters' overall experience? And what measures can be taken in order to enhance and improve overall public transport reliability? With this study, our research objectives are to investigate unreliable time schedules in transport to create database solutions for better service reliability. With this study, we'll also analyze how artificial intelligence AI can contribute to mitigate this issue. Wait a second, what was our research methodology again?
Why do you keep forgetting things? We employed 2 research methods to support and strengthen our study.
I remember. Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, under qualitative research, we conducted interviews with experts in town planner and AI industry. This study will collect insights from them to get a deeper understanding of the impacts of AI in mitigating delayed schedules. To add, for our questionnaire, we conducted quantitative research, we conducted a questionnaire via Google Forms targeted towards College Islam Sultan Alam Shah students and gained how many total responses, Kira?
A staggering total of 105 responses.
105? No way!
Yes way!
This study collects passengers' views regarding integration of AI in mitigating delayed schedules. Now, based on the findings of our study, an interview with town planner Abdul Halim Ali Hassan, he explained that if we wish for the government to invest and make the public transportation becoming far more reliable, then the ideal target for the use of public transportation is 80% public transport, while 20% for private vehicle. Therefore, there will be enough demand for the government to directly take actions.
In order to achieve these ideal targets, efforts must start with early education in order to encourage the use of public transport. Next, another interview with Professor Abdul Samad bin Hassan Basari, he enlightened us that AI can use graph theory to plan efficient routes. Route planning mainly relies on passenger volume and coach count, as speed and range are fixed. In fact, China has already implemented AI for tourist navigation and operating unmanned vehicles.
Malaysia, however, faces unregulatory barriers to unmanned vehicles. However, other AI features such as language recognition are still usable in the country. To add, AI can also promote cultural events and festivals, not just boost revenue. Now, moving on, here is the summary of our survey responses. Have a look, everyone. Over 61% of respondents reported using public transport for travels and leisure. However, it is quite saddening the fact they still reported they experience delay in schedules and late arrivals quite frequently.
91.4% agreed that AI should be integrated to solve this problem, and unsurprisingly, 99% agreed that it would be very helpful with them to be informed about delays and late arrivals early on.
Oh my god, 99?
Our research correlates with SDG 11, which aims to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, AI is beneficial to local communities in many different ways. First, it can be used as a smart resource management. Second, better marketing and visibility for local offerings. Third, cultural heritage preservation, and many more, which brings us to our recommendations. Introducing Road Local.
An app we designed to assist travelers and tourists in navigating destinations across Malaysia with ease and confidence. Zaid, care to elaborate?
Of course. To begin with, the app's primary role is to use AI in order to track buses in trains in real time, informing the users about the real-time and delay schedules. Second, the app also recommends routes to eco destinations such as national park and heritage village, showing only routes that use public or low carbon method of transport in order to cut emissions.
This way, travelers are encouraged to opt for public transportation instead of private ones.
Wait. I just realized, don't this kind of app exist already?
Well, that is true. But what makes Rondo Local better than these other apps is that it's an integrated platform for public transport, ecotourism, and local community empowerment.
Oh, I see. Well, ladies and gentlemen, travelers can also check the conditions of the site, such as the weather, trail closures, or how crowded it is, making the trip safer and more enjoyable for everyone. Now, here's the interesting part. The app also recommends local guides, nearby stalls and homestays, and also cultural festivals along the way.
So you don't just reach your destination, you experience it. Isn't it interesting? You know, as they say, kill two birds with one stone.
Killing birds? That's not very eco-friendly.
It's just a saying, Diet. Call it a boost for the growth of local businesses. As if that wasn't enough, users can easily report about damages and pollution done to the environment at the eco sites with just a simple snap, and the info will be sent to local authorities. Now, wait a minute. What if I suddenly disconnected from the internet? Ladies and gentlemen, raise your hand if you relate how unstable our internet connection can be when we're traveling.
Well, it's simple. Whether you believe it or not, this app is even available in offline mode. The app will show you the last downloaded sync content, such as guides, maps, routes, and cultural festivals along the way. So you will still be updated with the local surrounding activities. That's not with the real activities though.
Wow, very helpful. To put it simply, what makes Rondo Local so unbelievably exceptional is that it uses AI ethically to enhance mobility and sustainability, solving real problems in Malaysia's tourism sectors and public transport. To make things better, it is well aligned with Malaysia's SDG commitments. Now, with that out of the way, Zaid, I'm sure the crowd is wondering, what exactly are the benefits of this app and why should you be excited about using it?
Of course, first, the app helps make public transportation becomes more reliable, efficient, and trustworthy by attracting users through smart route improvement, data-driven improvement, and real-time tracking. Second, the app also helps users avoid waiting blindly for their transport to come, since the app will inform them about the delay and real-time schedules ahead of time. So, even if there happens to be delays, the users could spend their time more efficiently instead of just waiting.
Well, that's nice. But what about local businesses? Would they also benefit from this app?
Of course, local businesses will get more recognition due to the app highlighting and giving fair recommendations to everyone without excluding the small businesses, thus creating more income opportunities and overall giving locals a voice in ecotourism and route planning.
Wow, interesting. Last question. What about ecotourism itself?
Yours a lot, Kaira, but it's fine. Well, Rondo Local helps protect nature by guiding visitors through low-impact route, promoting eco-friendly travel, and overall highlighting hidden ecotourism spots with smart suggestions.
Thank you for that insightful information. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at the end of our journey. Through Rondo Local, we're not just building an app.
We're building a greener and more sustainable way to move, one that connects people, nature, and local communities in one meaningful journey.
We've waited long enough for the best and for better solutions. It's time to catch up.
Not just with the schedule,
But with the future. So the next time you travel, let the winds guide your commute. Never miss another ride.
Thank you. Your points and questions.
Now I would like to invite participants to ask questions.
Yes. Thank you for your presentation, Kisas. As for my question, how can AI use the graph theory in public transportation?
Testing mic. Thank you for the question. Now, in order to answer that, let me first explain to you what graph theory simply is. So, basically, graph theory is a concept in mathematics that represents networks and also connections between objects, in which the networks that we mean here are public transportation. So, for example, let's say that you are departing from Subang to KL Central. Now, there are multiple routes that you can choose from, but you don't know which one to use. So by the AI using graph theory, the AI can calculate the each route in terms of, for example, duration. So AI can tell you which route takes the shortest amount of time, and you would also be able to get to your destination in the quickest way. So I hope this answers your question.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum Kisas. So, I'm from Bandung Science School, and could you elaborate more on better marketing and visibility for local offerings and cultural heritage, if possible?
Of course, I would like to take that question. First, what do we mean by better marketing and visibility for local offerings? Right. So our app highlights the nearby stalls, homestay, local guides, such as I mentioned before that. Right. So, with that, that's what we meant by better marketing and visibility for local offerings. Because not everyone who not everyone who gets to these eco destination sites, right, knows about everything that is going around there. So when the app highlights about these stalls, local guides, homestays, then the user will be more aware about what's going around in the surrounding. So that's what we meant by better marketing and visibility for local offerings. And second, cultural heritage and preservation. What we meant by cultural heritage and preservation is that when the app shows you about local festivals and cultural festivals, right? So that the community could share their cultural heritage to the users, while to the other tourists, while also preserving them. Does that answer your questions?
Testing. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good day. My name is Farah Risha from Sains Tuanku Jaafar School. Thank you for the lovely presentation. I would like to question. There is currently in status quo an app called Move It, and Move It does the same functions as your app. And in my perspective, perspective, what is the exclusiveness in your app that is not existent in Move It? Thank you.
Of course. Well, the exclusiveness of our app and what is the difference between our app and the other existing apps such as Commune and Move It, like you mentioned before, right? So for Move It, it only shows you routes to it only shows you routes using public transport routes, right? So the difference is almost the same as our app, but our app also features another feature such as recommending sites and stuff like that. It also tells you about the condition of the site. So basically, that is the difference between our app and Move It. Since it's simply our app focus on ecotourism and greener and sustainable way. All right. So what about the difference between Komoot? Komoot is actually an outdoor hiking app, right? But Komoot doesn't tell you on how can you get to these ecotourism sites using public transport, or in a simple way we say on the same way you could preserve the environment, right? So the difference is our app only shows you routes using public or low carbon transport. So hope that answers your questions.
All right. Thank you. That was a great presentation from you guys. Okay, so I would like to ask a peculiar question. What do you think if we replace electric cars for transport? What do you guys think?
All right. Thank you for the question. Now, when we mention electric cars, of course, we think that electric cars are completely eco-friendly and would contribute to a greater environment. However, one of the main focuses of sustainable community is that it is a community that uses resources efficiently. And one of the resources that we can imply here is space. Now, for example, let's say that you are transporting 60 people from a certain place to another ecotourism spot. Now, if you were to transport them using electric vehicles, it would take multiple space and it would make the road filled with traffic jams. However, if you were to transport them using a bus, it would not take most of the space, and it will reduce the risk of traffic jams, and it will also use space of the roads efficiently. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Now I would like to invite judges to ask questions.
All right. So let me take your question and thank you for your questions. The main so those who we are targeting, the users are actually those who are trying to go for traveling, but also while preserving the environment. That's our target. That's our target. That's our target users. So So about the apps, you talk about the difference between the apps, right? And so can you repeat your question again? I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. That was all right. So our target users, as mentioned before, is that those who are trying to travel while preserving the environment. And what are the difference between other apps is that our app integrates our app integrates green mobility, and most importantly, is a way to sustain the city in one place, which no other app has fully does. Like I told you about Move It, or the local Move It, and Komoot, and other stuff like that. Hope that answers your questions.
Thank you to College Islam Sultan Alam Shah for presenting. Now I would like to invite Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuching Utara to the stage.
Hi there. Greetings and a very good afternoon to our honorable judges, teachers, and our lovely audience. Proudly representing SM Sains Kuching Utara, my name is Irene Alma.
My name is Abdullah Fakih.
We're here with Devona Ryan as our rapporteur, Muhammad Hafi Daniel as our technical assistant, and our teacher in charge, Ms. Nur Aini Rahim. Today, we are honored to be standing here to share with you all our findings related to Sub-Theme 6, that is, connecting communities through transport and sustainable ecotourism in Sarawak. All right, before we dive deeper, allow me to introduce the different modes of transportation in Sarawak that promotes ecotourism. The first type of transportation we have is air transport. So, for example, the Mulu National Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is now accessible by flight. Next up, we have river transport. Long boats are used to travel to remote longhouses along rivers like the Rajang and Baram rivers, and also Tobacco National Park. And of course, we have road transport. So visitors can drive to Tobacco National Park and Santubong to enjoy a dolphin watching tour.
Currently, Sarawak is upgrading its transport system through Kuching Urban Transportation System, or mainly known as KUTS. It includes a 69.9 kilometers hydrogen-powered autonomous rapid transit network. With its phase 1 covering 27.6 kilometers, this project is set to be completed by 2026. And get this, for your information, Sarawak's 2025 budget has allocated over 1.42 billion ringgit, over 1.42 billion ringgit, pardon me, over 1.42 billion ringgit for KUTS in supporting Sarawak's green mobility goals with hydrogen fuel and low carbon initiatives. However, Sarawak still faces some challenges regarding ecotourism access.
So the challenges are limited infrastructure in rural and interior regions, lack of integrated transport systems, and environmental strain from unregulated access. Now, with these challenges, it makes it difficult to maintain a consistent flow of tourists. And however, Sarawak sees these challenges as an opportunity to first develop green transport corridors, such as investing in ecotourism transport like hybrid buses and electric boats. Second, boosting rural economies. So, for example, the Anah Rais Longhouse offers cultural stays and jungle treks for visitors. And finally, to promote Sarawak as a model for sustainable tourism with its rich biodiversity and indigenous heritage.
Moving on, so our research focuses on how the development of transportation in Sarawak contribute to building sustainable cities and communities.
In our research, we have observed how improved connectivity and access play an important role in the development of transportation in Sarawak. Now, improved connectivity and access reduce time travel, makes travel smoother and safer. With the multi-lane Pan-Borneo Highway, travel time is reduced and it links urban and rural areas, such as from Kuching and Miri to Barrio and Batang Ay. And also, improved connectivity and access result in a boost in access and service, meaning rural areas also now get better access thanks to improved transport.
Other than improved connectivity and access, Sarawak Transportation Development also support SDG 11 by making travel safer with better lighting signage and guardrails, resilient by making them able to handle floods, inclusive by connecting rural and urban areas, and lastly, sustainable by using green options such as hydrogen buses. Not only that, it also have shown to leave a huge positive impact towards the community and the environment. For instance, it helps to promote green transport and at the same time improving the quality of life. Now, you may ask how? Well, the answer is easy. By using clean hydrogen buses in ART, it helps to reduce pollution and at the same time making travel faster, easier, and safer for everyone.
Now, we will take a look at our stakeholders interview as part of our research.
Hi everyone, I'm Abdullah Fakir. Today me and my friends are here at the main tourist attraction of Sarawak, which is Kuching Waterfront. So today, we're going to ask them a few questions regarding the development of transportation in Sarawak.
Memilih untuk membawa bas ni, dia ada macam pengalaman kita mengangkut orang awam untuk kesenangan orang awam, macam kita bawa pelancong, bawa orang lokal sini. Jadi untuk kesenangan semua orang penumpang lah, passenger semua. Belum tahu. Memang sesuai untuk awam. Memang sesuai. Semua untuk pengangkutan memang sesuai. Sebab dia boleh memuaskan penumpang-penumpang, dia pusing seluruh Kuching ini.
Sudah semestinya akan menaikkan pelancongan di negeri Sarawak. Because kalau kita lihat dari segi laluan daripada Bako sehinggalah ke Samarahan, ke Damai, kawasan ini adalah antara tempat-tempat yang dilawati oleh turis ataupun pelancong yang datang ke negeri Sarawak. Penerimaan oleh pihak komuniti ataupun pihak penduduk setempat hanya akan dilihat apabila sistem ini berjalan nanti. Dan kalau kita lihat sekarang ini kawasan-kawasan yang di cover ataupun yang ditutupi oleh jajaran ART ini ia merupakan kawasan yang agak banyak penduduk dan saya rasa ia akan memberi kesan dan impak yang baik kepada ekonomi setempat dan juga akan digunakan.
Alright, that was the end of the video. Now, we will move on to the transport overview in Sarawak. As you can see here, the number of registered vehicles and motorcycles was already high back in 2018. So, by 2025, we can safely assume that this number has only gone up. Now, this increase may seem normal, and after all, everyone needs to get around. However, it comes with serious side effects such as pollution, traffic congestion, and sadly, a higher risk of fatal road accidents. And that is exactly why Sarawak is implementing the Autonomous Rapid Transit System.
Enough with the transport, and let us have a look at Sarawak's tourism overview. As you all can see, in 2024, Sarawak has recorded over 4 million visitor arrivals, surpassing its target by 20%. Not only that, on January 2025, however, Sarawak's tourism revenue have exceeded over 1 billion ringgit, making a significant economic contribution from the tourism sector. Moving on to our next point, we've decided to base our key findings on the upcoming Sarawak project, which is the ART system.
Now, the ART system is designed to reduce traffic congestion by becoming an efficient and reliable alternative to private cars. The vehicle itself is fully electric and emits zero carbon, which is great for the environment, and it is designed with a collision avoidance system, which makes roads safer for both passengers and pedestrians.
Although ART system comes along with a lot of benefits, inclusive planning and local voices are still very much needed to ensure that this project can fulfill SDG 11 aspect of inclusiveness. For example, inclusive planning fosters cultural respect and sustainability as it involves all the local communities in deciding where ART system should be placed.
Another very important element in building sustainable cities and communities is resilience. And one way Sarawak demonstrates this is through community-based tourism. Now, this empowers locals to take part in and benefit directly from tourism activities. It also preserves culture while creating steady, sustainable income.
Sarawak's ecological conservation also a great example for resilience, as the state protects forests and wildlife through ecotourism and local stewardship. Other than that, this state also balances development with nature, which ensure long-term sustainability. To conclude, Sarawak is leading a sustainable development by integrating modern transport with ecotourism. That's all from us. Thank you.
Now, I would like to invite participants to ask questions. I would like to invite judges to ask questions.
Okay. Can you go to? Okay. Can you go to the slides where you mentioned about something with the transport just now? There is like a 4-bar chart on the transport. Yeah, this one. I can't see the connection between. Can you explain to me? Because the total road length is 2015, then 2018, 2018, then 2017. What is the connection?
Thank you for your question. So this graph was generated from, we collected information from multiple sources and we generated this graph. So we considered total road length and public buses to show the development of transportation in Sarawak. However, we focused more on the registered vehicles, the number of registered vehicles and motorcycles to show you exactly why Sarawak is implementing the autonomous rapid transit system.
Then public buses 2017, public buses 2018 don't have.
We don't have that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you to Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuching Utara for your presentation. Thank you for the interesting and thought-provoking presentations. Thank you to all judges for your time.